Gotta make a video. Should I go for a happy fun time topic to keep the crybabies happy, or a topic with actual substance that presents ideas that aren't just a version of what literally every other YouTuber is doing? Tough one. I did make them pretty mad with that title last week. Fuck it. I'm talking about Kirby Star Allies being a half-ass series introduction to the Nintendo Switch. I have a tricky history with the Kirby franchise. I love the character, think the copy concept was and is brilliant, and I love how Nintendo likes to fittingly use it as their canvas for weird and crazy ideas. On the flip side, I've recently started to skip out on a lot of these games because since its introduction to the gaming world, it's been delegated to being the late swan song for whatever platform it's being released on. Not only that, but Kirby games as of late have been lacking in the scope department in my opinion. Kirby is amongst the most famous IP in gaming. I think Nintendo should really double down on that character and world to make a game truly worthy of the legendary status that series undoubtedly has. Not just make games that are stopgaps like Star Allies seems to be. And don't get me wrong, I think Kirby Star Allies looks great for what it is and is, as a result, one of the more exciting games in the upcoming Nintendo Switch games roster. I have it pre-ordered and will be playing through it as soon as I get my hands on it. I just think Kirby as a franchise is way past due for a way more ambitious title than this. And yes, I understand that Kirby games don't sell that well in the grand scheme of things. These games tend to be in the tier below Zelda, but I'd argue the strategy with this franchise's releases is the problem. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. Small game from big company will likely yield lower sales than a bigger game that really exemplifies what that company is capable of. Just look at the last two major Kirby console games. Both of them have largely been done by the Kirby franchise in the past. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse on Wii U is a sequel of sorts to Kirby Canvas Curse on DS. Arguably, the only interesting element of that was the presentation. I was, and still am, really into the clay motion look of that game, but it's entirely based around a mechanic that I feel would be more interesting as a piece of a larger puzzle than it ended up being in a full-fledged game, especially once they stretched it out into 2 games. Now with Star Allies, it feels like we're getting a bit of a marriage between Squeak Squad for DS and Return to Dreamland for the Wii. I'm all about reusing and improving older concepts, but in the context of Kirby, I think it generally leaves the resulting games feeling smaller in scope and honestly a waste of a Kirby game. So I'm going to talk about my dream Kirby game. We'll see how Kirby Star Allies stacks up next month, but for now I want to do a bit of what if. Let me know what your dream Kirby game is in the comments. First and foremost, I want to see how Kirby would fare in 3D. For whatever reason, Kirby is the only major Nintendo IP that hasn't made the jump in a mainline game. Although, to be fair, what even is a Kirby mainline game? Air Ride doesn't count, does it? After all, Kirby hasn't proven to be as, problematic to make play well in 3D as fellow iconic franchises like Sonic, Mega Man, or even Donkey Kong seem to be. So why not give it a shot for Kirby? They've partially already solved for Kirby's ability to float and his pacing and just general movement by way of Kirby Air Ride, so why not fine-tune that into something worthy of a full-fledged action-adventure game? As a matter of fact, HAL Laboratory, the development studio behind the Kirby franchise, has expressed their interest in making a full-on 3D Kirby game like this in the past. In a 2015 interview with VG247, when asked about the possibility of such a game, HAL Laboratory director Shinya Kumazaki said, "We're really interested in making a fully 3D Kirby game. I suspect there are also more than a few users who'd appreciate being able to freely run around a sprawling map, fighting with copy abilities. In one of our previous titles, Kirby Air Ride, there was a mode called City Trial which saw players racing around a large 3D area on air ride machines. It definitely showed off how well the combination of the Kirby style action and 3D environment works. So I think it's certainly a possibility given how much Kirby is capable of." End quote. I think there's a lot to be gained from taking what they learned from that experience in addition to what the team can glean from other big entries in Nintendo's franchises as of late. Kumazaki said something about big sprawling maps in that particular quote, and I agree with the sentiment, but I think the immediate assumption most will get from that is bringing that series into an open world. I completely disagree with this particular idea. I believe that throwing Kirby into an open world would run the risk of the game as a whole feeling vapid, uninteresting, and relatively purposeless. They can't necessarily go in the Odyssey direction either. Kirby is definitely a series that would benefit from the Mario Odyssey styled sandboxes. The problem is, Cappy kinda takes some of the wind out of Kirby's sails with the capture mechanic, so making a game so close to that style could lead to Kirby's first big 3D game feeling samey. Obviously, this shouldn't mean they should shy away from the copy ability. There's a fair amount of potential in what separates Kirby as a character and how he himself controls. The act of inhaling is considerably different from throwing Cappy and is its own form of combat at times, as well as puzzle solving even. And ultimately, the ability to absorb enemies in Kirby is iconic, so it can't go anywhere. Also, for what it's worth, the abilities that Kirby gains are wholly additive, while what Mario gains is more of a pointed give and take. Kirby has the advantage in flexibility for each copy ability. In Kirby, the challenge is less about using the abilities for movement and more about using them for combat. As such, if Kirby in 3D doubles down on that, I think it can comfortably set itself apart from Odyssey. Also, it could stand to gain a lot from the chemistry engine used in Breath of the Wild. This adds the potential of a rock, paper, scissors element to combat, an avenue for environmental puzzle solving, and I mean, come on, it just makes sense with Kirby's shtick. But that's not enough. Kirby needs to set itself apart from just being a refined version of the best parts of Odyssey and Breath of the Wild with a Kirby flair. It needs a Kirby exclusive spin, something they could revolve the entire game around. But what could that be? I think the clear answer is his Warp Star. Making that a major mechanic, I feel, could be very interesting in an action-adventure game. It could both tie into the gameplay and plot by being the ultimate end goal and the obvious form of transportation. In addition to that, introducing grand space boss battles to the series would make a lot of sense for a Star Warrior. Maybe space becomes a big part of Kirby's progression, finding a fire planet, improving Kirby's fire abilities, and so on. Space up until now has been in my opinion, criminally underutilized thing in Kirby games. If there needs to be a hub world, make it space. Easy. This would even open up the possibility of DLC, new copy abilities only made possible by New Planet DLC perhaps. After all, Nintendo was clearly planning to utilize DLC to prolong the life of their games. It wouldn't shock me to see something of this magnitude being implemented in a full-fledged 3D action-adventure Kirby game. In the process of all of this, let's either completely nix multiplayer or completely revamp it. The only way I'd be open to multiplayer in this is if they use either Meta Knight or Day-to-Day and make them unique compared to Kirby. We don't need another Nintendo co-op game where every player controls a character that plays essentially the same. Allow for the characters' abilities to elevate each other in some way. Not to the extent that the level is impossible without a particular player for the times when you're playing alone, just in a way that when you are playing with someone else, their presence feels additive. Unless they do an Air Ride racing mode. You know what? Forget the co-op thing. They can do that. I'll allow it. I mean, why not? If the inspiration for a full-on 3D Kirby action game was Air Ride to begin with, it's only right to use some of the new assets in a mode like that. It's a snake eats its tail sort of situation. In Air Ride, we had a bare bones skeleton of what would become an action game, and the action game implement a smaller scaled version of Air Ride using vertical slants of planets from the main game. Honestly, a better introduction to Switch doesn't even have to be that ambitious of an affair either. It could just as easily be a 2D game with a new major mechanic that we haven't seen before. We got Kirby's Epic Yarn and GameCube got Kirby Air Ride. Why did Wii U and now Switch have to get versions of concepts we've seen in the franchise already? For me, Switch has been a place for new and improved. Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey proved that grand adventures are more than welcome on Switch. Their IP should all get similar treatment, not just in the typical sequel way, but huge best of show level entries in the franchise. And I'm positive that people in the comments of this video that will inevitably disagree with me on this will point out the sales that the franchise gets, but I think that's missing the forest for the trees. Breath of the Wild was huge, not because it was Zelda, but because it was the best Zelda. The best Kirby with a grand scale could attract players in the same way. There's no doubt about that. Also, shut up about the kids thing. Kirby is enjoyable for older players as well, as long as you're not pretentious, of course. Anyway, I think Kirby deserves the same level of franchise-defining shakeup on Switch. What we're getting feels like not just filler for the game's lineup, but for the series overall. overall. That's disappointing. I think Kirby can be much more, but who knows? Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one. But as always, those are my thoughts. What do you think? Would you be excited to see a major 3D Kirby game? Or are you fine with the types of games we've been getting recently? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. If you really like this video, hit subscribe and especially the notification bell so you're notified when new videos like this go up every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And if podcasts are your thing, we have one of those too that goes up every Saturday at the same time. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.